Hi, I'm John Green. Welcome to my salon. This is Mental Floss, and this is a can of pop here in the Midwest, or soda if you're in the Northeast, or if y'all are in the South, it's Coke, even though it's Diet Dr. Pepper, and possibly even tonic if you're in Boston. If you're in England, maybe this is a fizzy pop or a soft drink. Regardless, I can taste all 23 flavors. And those are the first 7 regional slang terms I'm going to list for you today. 7 down, 100 to go. Let's do this. Let's get the controversial one out of the way first. In New England, this is a grinder. In Philadelphia, it is a hoagie, and New Yorkers know it as a hero. Some New Yorkers may even call it a wedge. In Australia, when you talk to someone, you're having a yarn. I know because Crocodile Dundee. The word wicked is used to mean very in Boston and much of New England. For instance, it's wicked cold, which is a perfect example because it is always cold. Speaking of cold, in Scotland, Baltic can mean very cold. In Maine, dooryard means the lawn near the house. To be from Indiana is to be a Hoosier, although most people here proudly identify as Hoosiers, the word's origin is unknown. In the South, when you hear toboggan, the person is probably referring to a knit cap instead of the sled that many of us picture. In Canada, this is a toque. Toque. Mark is Canadian, and he says it's toque. In Australia, a male kangaroo is a boomer and a female is a flyer. In England and in Ireland, asking what's the crack means what's the plan. Here in America, the answer to what's the crack is cocaine baked with baking soda. A bubbler is where you get your water when you go to the park in Wisconsin. This one was invented by a water fountain manufacturer in Kohler, Wisconsin, who named one type of water fountain a bubbler, and the rest was history. You may also hear that term in Portland, Boston, or Rhode Island. Water fountain is more likely to be heard in the eastern part of the country, but drinking fountain is more of a western and midwestern expression. And if you think that's confusing, what we call streams, that's all over the place. Louisiana uses bayous, New York has kills, the Southwest calls them washes, some streams in the southeast coast are referred to as swamps, Wisconsin calls them branches, New England has brooks, they're often called a run in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. In both Australia and the United Kingdom, holiday can be used as a word for any time off for vacation. We just found out that Mark says holiday too, but it doesn't matter because vacations are not allowed here. This bag of groceries is often called a sack of groceries in the South, or even less commonly, a poke, as in pig in a poke. Pig! Staff pork chop party fund! In Florida, a turnpike is any road containing a toll, but in Delaware and many other places, turnpikes are just highways. They call their toll roads toll roads. What much of the US might refer to as a traffic circle is called a rotary in Boston and some of New England. Speaking of cars, in Australia, the hood of the car is the bonnet and the trunk is the boot. In Canada, the $1 coin is the loonie and the $2 coin is the toonie. To rabbit on in Ireland is to talk on and on. The same thing might be called havering in Scotland, in case you ever wondered what that line in 500 miles is about. If you're going to the beach, you might be going down the shore in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, to the coast in Oregon, or even down the ocean in Baltimore. And yes, that is true even if you're going north. A living room is called a parlor in some parts of New England, as well as Pennsylvania and 18th century England. In Canada, the garbage disposal is the garburator. In Ireland, someone who's acting the maggot is messing around or being rambunctious. Pennsylvanians might call this thing a gum band, Northerners are more likely to call it an elastic, and Minnesotans might refer to it as a rubber binder or even a binder. Australians equate to knock and to criticize. In the southern US, a faucet is often called a spigot, and less commonly, a spigot. I actually called it a spigot growing up. I didn't know that was uncommon. Also, Southerners sometimes call shopping carts buggies. On the East Coast, garage sales are often known as tag sales. That little bit of grass between the sidewalk and the street, in Northeast Ohio, that's often referred to as the Devil's Strip. In other parts of Ohio, the Great Lakes region, and New York, it's the tree lawn. Other Midwesterners think it's a boulevard, and Californians might call it a parking strip. And those weirdos in Connecticut call it a snow shelf. Or if you're me, you didn't even know that there was a name for that thing. If you're in America, these are Smarties. Anywhere else? These are Smarties. And speaking of delicious snacks, Jimmy's is the commonly used term in Philly and New England for what the rest of the country calls sprinkles. In Philadelphia, Wooder Ice means a slushy or Italian ice. A frap is a milkshake in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and you are more likely to hear catty corner in the southern United States and kitty corner in the northern United States. British people refer to the toilet as the loo or the bog, and a loo roll is toilet paper. In Boston and parts of the southern US, that is a clicker. Bostonians may also refer to their car's turn signal as a directional directional or a blinker, although it doesn't matter because they never use them anyway. Also in New England, the people who slow down all the traffic by visiting in order to look at the leaves changing colors are called leaf peepers. You're also more likely to hear cellar there than basement. I'm starting to think, New Englanders, that you just want to be different. In Louisiana, a closet is sometimes known as a locker. If you've put it on the long finger in Ireland, you've procrastinated. Pavement is sometimes preferred to sidewalk in Pennsylvania, and while most Americans use the term lightning bug, Northerners use it interchangeably with firefly. Midwesterners, and I promise this is true, sometimes call green bell peppers mangoes. Also, you may sometimes hear a Southerner call an avocado an alligator pear, and in the South, a tater is a potato. In Canada, powdered sugar is called icing sugar, and a donut hole is called a timbit, even though it is clearly a donut hole. Seesaw and teeter-totter are both used in the US to mean the same thing, but in Massachusetts, you can also call it a tilt or a teetleboard. Rhode Island's Narragansett Bay has another name for them, dandleboards. In Maine, you might hear trash being called skulch. In British slang, flat means apartment, and people who live on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan are called youpers. And youpers have their own dialect, like bakery refers to all baked goods, and you might also hear the word panking to refer to padding or compacting something down. A potluck is called a carry-in in parts of the Midwest. Here in Indiana, we often call it a pitch-in dinner. Our neighbors in Illinois call it a scramble dinner, and even further north in the Midwest, people call it a covered dish meal. In New York and Pennsylvania, you might hear tureen dinner. To use it in a sentence, the best thing to bring to a tureen dinner is half-eaten corn dogs. If you eat enough of them, you will have gigantic muscles, like half of this guy. And if you invite a Minnesotan to your carry-in dinner, they might bring what they call a hot dish, which is another word for casserole. An eaves trough refers to a gutter, and you're most likely to hear it in the north and western United States. People from Pennsylvania and New Jersey are more likely to call it a rain spout. A northern American is more likely to describe something as a pail that a southerner would call a bucket. Snowmobiles are referred to as snow machines in Alaska. And lastly, Australians do not set up appointments so much as they tee them up. Thank you for watching Mental Floss here on YouTube, which is made with the help of these nice people. Every week we endeavor to answer one of your mind-blowing questions. This week's question comes from Avid Brick Films, who asks, do our eyes really roll to the back of our heads when we die? Why or why not? Yes, but only sometimes. Pupils dilate upon death, and the rest of your body loses muscle tension, which can result in eyes rolling into the back of one's head. But not always. P.S. Friendly reminder, Mental Floss is not just a YouTube series, it is also a physical magazine and an online shop where you can get board games and t-shirts and many other things. If you use the code YouTubeFlossers, you can also get 15% off. Thank you for watching, and DFTBA.